A racist Karen thought she could scare a black family right out of their home with a totally fake eviction notice. She figured they didn't know their rights. Boy, was she wrong. The lawyer they hired didn't just stop the eviction. He basically dismantled her entire life in court. If you love stories about entitled people getting a massive dose of karma, you're in the right place. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because you are not going to want to miss a single second of this. For the Wilson family, David, Sarah, and their 10-year-old daughter, Maya, their rented house was way more than just a place to live. It was their sanctuary. For 3 years, they'd made it real home. David's garden was his masterpiece. Sarah could name every bird that visited the old oak tree out front, and Maya's bedroom walls were a gallery of her childhood dreams. They were the perfect tenants. Rent was always on time. The property was spotless, and they were kind and quiet. They were great neighbors to everyone on the block, everyone, except for Carol. Carol lived directly across the street, and from the moment the Wilsons moved in, she seemed to have a problem. It started small. Little passive-aggressive jabs about the color of their welcome mat, complaints about loud music during a quiet family barbecue at 3 p.m., and just this constant, creepy staring from her window. David and Sarah tried to kill her with kindness. They waved, they smiled, they even offered her fresh vegetables from the garden. Every single time, they were met with a sneer or a door slammed in their face. It didn't take long to realize Carol's issue wasn't the music or the welcome mat. Her problem was them. She made it painfully clear she didn't want a black family in her neighborhood. That simmering hostility finally boiled over on a Tuesday afternoon. David came home from work and found a piece of paper taped to their front door. It was clearly designed to look official, with big, threatening letters splashed across the top. Official notice to vacate. He ripped it off the door, and his blood ran cold. The notice claimed they were violating their lease for, get this, unspecified nuisance conduct. And it said they had exactly 72 hours to get out before their belongings were forcibly removed by law enforcement. When Sarah and Maya got home, they found David at the kitchen table, just staring at the paper with a mix of disbelief and fury. Sarah's hands started trembling as she read it. The fear was immediate. 72 hours? Where could they possibly go? How was this even happening? Seeing the panic in her mom's eyes, Maya burst into tears, asking if they were going to be homeless. That was the moment. Seeing his family fall apart like that, David's fear hardened into pure, cold resolve. He looked closer at the notice. It was printed on cheap copy paper. There was no court seal, no case number, no signature from a judge. And most importantly, it wasn't from their actual landlord, who lived 2 states away and with whom they had a perfect relationship. This wasn't a legal document. It was a threat, and he had a pretty good idea who sent it. That night was a blur of anger and panic. Through her tears, Sarah was frantically Googling tenant rights and illegal eviction. She stumbled upon a local tenant advocacy group with a hotline. The next morning, her heart pounding, she called. They listened to her entire story and gave her the number of a lawyer who specialized in this exact stuff, a man named Mr. Davies. They met him that same afternoon. Mr. Davies was a calm, sharply dressed man who had this quiet confidence that just instantly put them at ease. He listened without a single interruption while David explained the years of harassment and Sarah handed him the fake notice. Davies glanced at the paper, and a tiny, knowing smile flickered across his lips. He slid it back to them. "This," he said, his voice steady but firm, "is not an eviction notice. An eviction is a legal process, handled by the courts. This is a piece of paper meant to scare you. It's a classic and highly illegal self-help eviction tactic." He leaned forward. "So you have 2 options. You can get scared, you can pack, and you can let this bully win. Or you can let me help you fight back. And I promise you," he added, "if you choose to fight, we won't just be on the defense. We will attack." For the first time in 24 hours, the Wilsons felt a flicker of hope. They were ready to fight. Mr. Davies's plan was beautiful and simple. First, he told them, do nothing. Don't move, don't pack, and absolutely do not speak to Carol. Just go about your lives. Second, document everything. I want you to install security cameras, high-definition ones, pointed at your front door, your driveway, and your yard. She's going to escalate when you don't leave, and I want every second of it on camera." He then broke down the law for them. That fake notice wasn't just improper. It was an act of harassment they could sue her for. Any other stunts she pulled would just make their case stronger. Davies immediately drafted a letter to their actual landlord, not only informing him of the harassment, but getting his full support on the record before Carol could get to him. And just like Davies predicted, when that 72-hour deadline came and went, Carol's behavior got so much worse. She started screaming at them from her lawn. She'd stand there, filming them with her phone whenever they came or went. One night, she pointed a huge speaker at their house and blasted terrible music until after midnight, and Wilson's brand new cameras caught it all. Every clip went straight to Mr. Davies' inbox, and he'd just reply with 2 simple words: "Keep it coming." Feeling untouchable, Carol made her biggest mistake. She tried to get them evicted for real. Now, since she wasn't the landlord, she couldn't file an eviction herself. So instead, she repeatedly contacted the out-of-state landlord, feeding him a stream of lies and fabricated complaints. She finally wore him down, and he reluctantly initiated the proceedings, believing the nonsense about noise violations and disruptive behavior, the very things she was doing. When the court date arrived, Carol strutted in representing herself, wearing a smug smirk like she'd already won. She saw the Wilsons and Mr. Davies at the other table and gave them a triumphant little sneer. She honestly thought this was just a formality. Carol presented her case to the judge, a long, rambling list of complaints that painted the Wilsons as the neighbors from hell. She talked about imaginary loud parties and trash in the yard. It was a masterclass in projection, a complete reversal of reality. The judge just listened, his face totally unreadable. Then it was Mr. Davies' turn. He stood up, the picture of calm professionalism. He didn't have to raise his voice. "Your Honor," he started, "we will certainly address these accusations. But first, I'd like to discuss a different document." He put the fake eviction notice on the projector for the whole court to see. "Miss Carol," he said, turning to face her, "do you recognize this?" Carol's eyes darted around. "It's a notice to vacate," she stammered. "Indeed," Davies said smoothly. "A notice that you created and posted on my client's door. Is that right?" I was just trying to let them know they were being disruptive," she blurted out, basically confessing without even realizing it. Then it was Mr. Davies' turn. He stood up, the picture of calm professionalism. He didn't have to raise his voice. "Your Honor," he started, "we will certainly address these accusations. But first, I'd like to discuss a different document." He put the fake eviction notice on the projector for the whole court to see. "Miss Carol," he said, turning to face her, "do you recognize this?" Carol's eyes darted around. "It's a notice to vacate," she stammered. "Indeed," Davies said smoothly. "A notice that you created and posted on my client's door. Is that right?" I was just trying to let them know they were being disruptive," she blurted out, basically confessing without even realizing it. "You were trying to illegally intimidate and harass them without a court order, which is a severe violation of state law," Davies corrected, his voice sharp as a tack. He turned back to the judge. "Your Honor, this document wasn't a one-off. It was the beginning of a premeditated campaign of harassment, and it didn't stop there." And that was the signal. Davies nodded to his paralegal, who hit play on the large screen set up in the courtroom. The court was then treated to a highlight reel of Carol's greatest hits. She was screaming profanities at Sarah for getting the mail. She was, well past midnight, aiming a giant speaker at the Wilsons' house. She was sneaking onto their porch to kick over one of Maya's little flower pots before scurrying away. The video evidence was undeniable. Carol's face went from pale to ghost white. The smirk was long gone, replaced by a slack-jawed look of absolute horror. The courtroom was dead silent. The judge, his face now like a thundercloud, finally spoke. he threw out the eviction case with prejudice, which means it can never be filed against them again. Then he turned his full, undivided attention to Carol. He tore into her for lying under oath, for attempting an illegal self-help eviction, and for her appalling and malicious harassment of the Wilson family. He informed her that creating and posting a fraudulent legal document was a serious offense, and that she could face a criminal investigation for it. As the judge's words hit her like a ton of bricks, Mr. Davies stood up one last time. "And Your Honor," he announced, his voice ringing through the room, "in light of the evidence presented, my clients will be filing a civil suit against Miss Carol. We are seeking significant monetary damages for harassment, defamation, and intentional infliction of emotional distress." The sound Carol made was somewhere between a choke and a sob. The queen of the neighborhood had been publicly dethroned and utterly humiliated. Her entire scheme had been picked apart and destroyed. The Wilsons' countersuit was, unsurprisingly, a huge success. The financial judgment against Carol was so substantial that it ultimately led to her having to sell her home to pay the damages and the Wilsons' legal fees. The irony was just perfect. In her hateful attempt to force a black family out of the neighborhood, the only person who ended up losing their home was her. The Wilson family finally got the peace they had deserved all along. Their story is such a powerful reminder that knowledge is power. Know your rights, and never, ever let a bully scare you into silence, because the law, in the right hands, really is the ultimate equalizer. What would you have done in the Wilson situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments. And for more stories where justice is served cold, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.